One, two, three, four.
Hello, you're listening to the Skylight Books podcast series. We are a general interest independent bookstore located in the Los Feliz neighborhood of Los Angeles, California. This year, because of the coronavirus pandemic, we've had to close our store and cancel in-person events. But Skylight is your neighborhood bookstore, and we are finding ways to create community even while we're far apart. In the coming weeks, we'll be putting out lots of new audio content to help you discover new books, connect with authors, and check in with your favorite booksellers. To learn more about how you can help keep Skylight alive, please visit our website at skylightbooks.com or check out our social media accounts on Twitter and Instagram. You can subscribe to the podcast on Podbean, iTunes, and Spotify. Thank you for listening and enjoy.
Hey.
Welcome, everybody. So glad you're here. Welcome. So glad to have Bethany Morrow and Mark Oshiro here with us today to celebrate Bethany's book. Welcome. We're here in sunny Los Angeles from this angle, but all coming from all over the place, and here to celebrate A Song Below Water. Couple points of business. We're going to start with a little bit of reading. I'll do in a brief introduction. We'll do a little bit of reading from the book. Then we'll let Mark and Bethany talk for a while, and then we will take questions from y'all, and we can go through the logistics of that when we get there, whether there's questions at chat or speaking for yourself. But welcome. It's so nice to be able to share this digital space, even when we're stuck at great distances.
Agreed.
All right. Also a reminder, like this we just learned, was it June 4th you were saying, Bethany, that the book just went into a second printing, which is super exciting. Yes. So you want to get your pre-order in as quick as you can, and if you order through Skylight Books through our website, we'll send it to you, or you can come pick it up with a very special pin that goes with the book. Yay. And a signed book plate. So just keep that in mind, and even though we can't be here to get Bethany to sign copies, that's the best we can do, which is, its own kind of magic. Yeah. All right. So grateful to have our guest here today. Mark Oshiro is the author of Anger is a Gift, winner of the 2019 Schneider Family Book Award, and nominated for 2019 Lammy Award. Their upcoming novels include Each of Us a Desert for young adult readers and The Insiders for middle graders. You can check them out on their online forum, Mark Does Stuff Universe. And they're here today to talk with Bethany Morrow. Bethany Morrow is a recovering expat splitting her time between Montreal, Quebec, and upstate New York. A California native, Bethany graduated from the University of California, Santa Cruz with a BA in sociology, while also taking notable detours in the film and theater departments. Following undergrad, she studied clinical psychological research at the University of Wales, Bangor in Great Britain, before returning to North America to focus on her literary work. This work ranges across genres and uses character and language to investigate worlds not unlike our own. All right, we're here today for A Song Below Water. In a society determined to keep her under lock and key, Tavia must hide her siren powers. Meanwhile, Effie is fighting her own family struggles, pitted against literal demons from her past. Together, these best friends must navigate through the perils of high school's junior year. But everything changes in the aftermath of a siren murder trial that rocks the nation. A captivating modern fantasy about Black mermaids, friendship, and self-discovery set against the challenges of today's racism and sexism. There's been a lot of really beautiful attention on the book happening recently, and I hope you'll check that out as well. I just wanted to share two words that I thought were particularly illuminating. Danielle Clayton calls it an enthralling tale of Black girl magic and searing social commentary ready to rattle the bones. And Akemi Don Bowman says, A Song Below Water reminds us how important it is to use our voices even when we're afraid. So with that, let's have a very warm welcome for Bethany Morrow.
Thank you. So I'm going to
Thunderous applause.
I'm going to read from chapter 3 today. So if you know about the book, there are dual POVs. And so it goes from Tavia, which is our siren character, to Effie, which is her sister friend who's becoming something. And of course doesn't know what that is yet. So I know that the first 2 chapters were available for a while online in preview, and so I don't want to read something that maybe people have already read before. So we're going to start with chapter 3, which is Tavia. They have just returned back to her home, and her father is like immediately upset and paranoid because there is a gargoyle roosting on their house, which he feels is probably Tavia's fault. So, so we're going to start here in chapter 3 from Tavia's perspective. You need more seriously, Tavia, he's saying, one finger pointing at the ceiling as though maybe the gargoyles are upstairs rather than perched on the roof. I barely have time to get in the house before the lecture begins. Earlier, I'd been relieved not to have to see my dad all day, but really, that only made it worse. It's meant that in the background, everywhere we were and no matter what I was doing, I kept imagining his response. Not his words, but the way they'd make me feel. Effie did her best to keep me occupied, but all day, all I could think was, Dad's gonna be pissed. No, that's not it. I know better. Dad's gonna be scared. Again. Now I know that I was right. All my unease, the palm sweats and acid reflux was because I know my dad well. He probably saw the same breaking news I did, and then the gargoyle returned to roost tonight the way it's done for the better part of 3 years. It all mixes together and makes my dad terrified and angry. Do you hear me? He demands with a raised voice. Rodney. My mom just has to say my dad's voice, and his eyebrows buckle. Like if she weren't there, he could spin out easy. Like she's the only reason he won't. He grabs hold of his neat black beard like he's pulling himself together for her. I hear you, Dad. I drop my eyes and wish I had a curtain of twists to shield me like Effie does. Instead, my twist out is pulled up in a top knot that felt really stylish this morning, but now makes my forehead feel like it's liable to split. And worse, leaves my face completely exposed. It's like he's a beacon, Geneva. He's saying to my mom like I'm invisible, like I didn't preemptively clear my history to make him happy. Whenever he gives up like this and only talks to her, I feel like I've physically shrunk. Like if I keep it up, one day I'll disappear. Like maybe that's what he wants. 3 years he's been roosting here. You don't think the neighbors are wondering why? What about our house is different? What makes a gargoyle choose us? What he's protecting? Effie's right beside me, and there's no way she speaks up in a situation like this, but I know what she'd say. Something totally sardonic and hilarious, but only to me, which is fine because she'd only say it to me anyway. If I were her, I could get away with smirking and saying, I don't know, Dad, Hillside's a pretty desirable neighborhood, plus we've got that spire, which I obviously don't say. No, I don't think the neighbors are wondering why. My mom is being gentle with him, like my dad's the one who needs consoling today. I think they're envious. And who says gargoyles are protectors? He doesn't have an answer for that, but what does that matter? We've got a secret, and as far as my dad's concerned, everything threatens to give us away. The fact that anyone else would be excited to host a gargoyle is beside the point. The fact that gargoyles are ridiculously rare, are the only non-human magical beings besides sprites, and therefore, and most importantly, have zero connection to sirens, doesn't matter. And even if they were protectors, I hate when she does this. Not every siren has a guard. My mom doesn't go one step further and remind him that no siren does. That's why there's a network in the first place. These people don't know that, Geneva. He keeps saying her name, like he wants to be sure I know he's not talking to me. They're not supposed to know which of us are sirens and which aren't. And they won't, honey, if you keep your voice down. The room is suddenly quiet. And of course, now is the time for the gargoyle to curl his stone talons tighter so that they scrape the drain pipe. When my parents' eyes lift, mine close. I hate that beast. The 4 of us are standing in a circle, Effie and me side by side. We've only come just beyond the foyer, but none of us move to the living room or try to take a seat. When the beast on our roof is done adjusting, my parents pick up the conversation where they left off. I'm going to get rid of him, Geneva. All right, honey. I have to. None of us ask him how or why 3 years later he thinks it's going to work. When the thing first arrived, or when a week had passed and we accepted that our house wasn't just a rest stop on his way somewhere else, my dad had tried blocking his perch. Whenever the gargoyle was away, he'd climb out my bedroom window and onto the roof to put something in its place, I guess in the hopes that gargoyles are severe creatures of habit and it would have no choice but to flee. Or maybe it wouldn't recognize the house. I don't know. I don't know any more about them than he does. None of us do. The only gargoyle mythos I've heard is that they're created, chiseled by a master out of solid stone, which full disclosure, I saw in a cartoon when I was little. No one ever disputes it, but who would? Other than the odd publicity stunt that turned out to be a load of crap, there aren't any known gargoyle masters chiseling new beasts to life, as far as anyone knows. Gargoyles don't speak for themselves. Who knows if they even can? What we know is that there's one gargoyle in Portland, and he chose us. According to the news crew that eventually showed up and that my dad couldn't bar filming it from the street below ours, this gargoyle is the first to perch in the city in a very long time. So I'm pretty sure it has nothing to do with me. But that doesn't matter. According to my dad, everything's my fault.
Oh, we're going to have a whole gargoyles talk at some point. So everyone in the chat, because I already saw something you're talking about, we'll get there. We'll get there. We got other things to talk about. So first of all, hi everyone. I'm Mark Oshiro. I am so excited to have this conversation. I am a big fan of you since Mem, and I have a lot of feelings about that, but we're not going to talk about that book because we're going to talk about the book that just came out, A Song Below Water. It is a book about transformation. It is a book about Black sisterhood.
Mm-hmm.
It is a book about reclaiming spaces. So much to talk to you about, but I'm going to start with my quintessential, very me question. And the question I have for you is, why are you like this? Why are you like this, and how did it end up that this is the book that you wrote?
So firstly, I just need to call out Miriam and Elle, and if you guys could keep it down in the chat, that would be great.
I just saw like 5 messages from Miriam.
Like, please, you guys, professionalism. No. So why am I like this? I don't know, but I know that I've been like this my entire life. So it's not going away anytime soon. Let me put it that way. Like, my dad was putting together, before the whole Rona thing, my dad was putting together our family reunion. He was hosting it for the first time since like 1988 or something. And he found, he's getting all these pictures together and all this video. And of course, he finds a video of me being just a tiny dictator and like ordering my older sisters. I'm the youngest daughter, right? Ordering my older sisters around and like deciding how everything was going to be. And I was like, please don't post this. I'm 37 years old and this still embarrasses me. Like, yeah, that's me. I have this thing though, where I just have a really, I will say, and I don't apologize for this, but like, I have a very strong conviction. And if I believe something, you're not going to shut me up about it. I'm never going to take responsibility for being angry at something I have a right to be angry about, or for fixing something that I didn't mess up. So this book literally came out of a relationship with my sister. We were on, I've told this so many times, I'm so sorry to anybody who's seen this before. And Miriam and Elle, it's your fault because you come to like every event. But I was on DM with my sister, Jennifer, which I always am. And it was like in 2017 or something. And we were watching a Black woman be completely abused and dragged up and down the timeline for telling the truth, because that's what happens. But of course, a specific type of misogynoir and vitriol that is like reserved just for Black women. And of course, part of it is to tell them that they aren't anything and that nobody cares about them and nobody, needs to hear them and nobody takes them seriously. And I'm like, that can't be true, or you wouldn't all be in this frothing rage that you're in. Right. So I DM'd my sister Jennifer and I was like, my voice is power. Like, I know that's why you're mad. And then as soon as I sent her that, I was like, that sounds like something a Black siren would say. And it also sounds like only Black women are sirens then. Like, this is a specific fear and hatred and whatever that is directed at Black women. And God forbid you have any other aspects of your identity. Like, I just don't know what to tell you. There's a line in this book that says siren and Black and female are just drama on, or trauma on top of trauma. So imagine obviously having any sort of queer identity, being Muslim, being like anything else. It's like, how do we even exist sometimes with the way that the world treats us? So as soon as I said that line, though, I knew that there was a Black siren. I knew that it was a teenager, and therefore Tavia sort of came to me with her whole situation sort of fully formed, which was, if there are Black sirens, they are hated. I know that because I'm a Black woman in the world.
Right.
And if they are hated, there has to be someone else who society intentionally chooses and anoints as being the prize, the right thing to be. It's not enough to just denigrate Black women. You have to always be lifting up someone else, usually some other identity of woman, in order to make the point that it's specifically Black women that you despise. We see that constantly, and it's actually too upsetting to even go into examples because they're observable. If you are awake, you'll see them. So I definitely knew immediately who Tavia was, and I knew that there had to be another magical creature that was basically on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Right. Which is, I think this is so interesting too, the way that you answered this question, because if this is a great pivot to talking about the actual craft of the novel as well, because I see your conviction and the way that you hold yourself and the way you speak about the world through the book. I don't think, you know, like there's all this bullshit talk about like separating like the art from the artist, but I think one of the great things about not being able to see a person's experience and the shit that they've been through, and they translate it into this beautiful work of art.
Yeah.
So I want to, because here's the thing, we don't get asked craft questions.
I know.
We don't. It's all about like, oh, let's talk about diversity 101.
Right.
Why are there diverses?
Why is it important to see yourself in books?
Yeah, we're not going to do any of that. Also, diversity, I realized I said that, but I've actually had someone say like, how is it being a diverse? Like it's a noun? Like it's its own thing? And I'm like, okay, we're not doing that. So let's talk about craft, because you have this construction, and I want to talk more about how you've answered some of it, but how you came up with the mythology. But the thing that immediately struck me is I loved that you had two first-person narratives that sounded nothing like one another. I think for having a just nailing voice with one first person is hard enough. You did two of them alternating. Was that did you find that challenging? Did you find it easy to slip into their voices once you sort of determined the stories for Tavia and Effie?
Yeah, I mean, this is, people hate these kind of answers. They like to hear like, this was the hardest thing I've ever done. No, I genuinely feel like character is my home. Like character is what is, language and character are hugely important to me always. That is really like that's my focus, and that's what brings me the most joy. And I mean, I sort of was on a steady diet as a teen of just Black literary fiction, and because it was like just the melody, just the pentameter, just the distinctness in characters, and the way that you could give a whole character's background in a paragraph that in some genres would be thought of as like, that's an aside, and why are you doing that? And it's like, if you don't understand the intrinsic like power and value of characterization, regardless of whether I can make it fun and pithy and whatever in dialogue, then we are not the same. But so it was it was really, really fun for me because number one, I come from a pretty large sibling set. So I have 8 siblings, and in the house growing up, there were 5 of us. 3 of us were sisters, and then I had my 2 younger brothers. And what happens, especially when people meet one of us at a time and then are introduced to them, the first thing they say is, you guys all talk the same. And then later we'll say like, and then later we'll be like, are you guys actually related? Like, you guys are so different. And it's really funny because obviously when you have a bond with people, when you have like a really serious, intense bond, of course there are times that we sound similar and we use the same, we have the same lexicon, we have a shared sort of dialect that we use together. There's a way that we, the way that we joke, and the way my sister Jennifer and I specifically, if you find that in the middle of a conversation you don't know what we're talking about, we are probably quoting a movie, and we just give you no indication that that's what we're doing now. So, and it's usually Karina. So like, it's between Karina and her sister Javina, and we'll do like an entire scene, and people will be like, don't want to say like, I kind of lost what we're talking about. We're like, that's because we're in a movie now.
Yeah.
So there was something about them that I knew I wanted there to be. I wanted you to be able to see you're reading Effie that she shares a dialect with Tavia and vice versa. But I also want distinctly different individuals to show that is an aspect of the sisterhood. They overlap as an aspect of the sisterhood. So it's really important to me to have because I came with such a clear and immediate image of, and not just image, but set of circumstances for Tavia. It was really important that I get the same idea for Effie and what type of person she is, and having them be in two really distinctly different points in their journey to sort of self and identity was important to that. And I love on the cover that Effie's eyes are closed and Tavia's eyes are open, because it's where they begin the story. Is that Tavia knows who she is, and there's a level of stability, which is a hard thing to say for Tavia because obviously her life is like, but like there is some stability that simply comes from knowing and identifying yourself and who you are, which Effie isn't constantly set upon in the same way as Tavia, but her instability is literally knowing something's wrong and not knowing what it is. And so crafting them and having them have two really distinctly different starting points, I think really helped with establishing their voices and what they're sort of, I love doing, especially in YA, I love doing first person because I think it's really, really important to see how people talk to themselves. And I think that's especially really important for Black girls and Black characters, because so many times you'll have a character that's plucked out and placed for the sake of diversity. This is why I hate diversity. Diversity is just like, okay, white people get to take up the exact same amount of space, but we're going to add some garnish. And
I mean, they're not really good at seasoning anyway, so how do we expect them to...
Mark.
What? I don't care. This is
the truth.
I'm going to get an email tomorrow from Tortine, like, and now about doing events, Mark.
Here's the thing. Tortine put both of us here tonight, so this is all you guys. Right. You should have known. So my issue with that diversity is that you take a marginalized person and you just pluck them and put them in a predominantly white situation, and that's why they don't get to be real, full, and complete people, because they carry the entire burden of education, of process, of helping someone else understand something, and you immediately create this like magical Negro situation. Whereas when you give people community and you give people their own internal monologue, you know when they are speaking in their true voice and when they're code switching. You know it's you know what they're doing, what they have to do for survival's sake versus who they actually are themselves. So instead of just seeing somebody's outward experience, you actually get to experience what they experience. And that was also really important to me. And again, then to show too, where it's like, they are not having the same internal thought process. They are not going through the same thing. I'm seeing that there is, someone is asking a question if something is weird. I don't know what that question is. I don't know if they're asking if it's like a technical issue. I have no idea. Anyway. Yeah.
Or just asking like, what's wrong with them?
Why are they so weird? Yeah. That's not going to change, guys. I'm sorry.
It's only going to get weirder from here on out.
It's only going to get worse. Buckle up. So on a craft level, like all of that, it does have to do with culture, and it obviously does have to do with it being own voice, but there are craft reasons. And that's why we say inclusion is a craft issue.
Yeah.
You're not crafting characters completely. Like, if you don't engage with the world as we know it and include people outside of the power dominant, group, your craft is weak. So in some ways, I feel like I'm always being asked craft questions because you're asking me how I do something that you are incapable of doing or have shown yourselves incapable of doing, and it's a craft flaw.
Yeah. Oh boy. Now I'm like, oh, that hit. I love it though. But you're right. It is craft in that roundabout way that's condescending too, because they don't think it's a craft question
Well,
at all. They're
exactly,
just like, oh, it's
exactly.
just,
It's like, oh, well,
oh
you're
my
black, so
God.
let's talk about what it's like to be black. And I'm like, well, let's talk about the fact that I can do dialogue and code switching and character study and nuance and social commentary and
Yeah.
all of those things that I then have to and can weave into my world and story. That's craft.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
competency that,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I agree. We need a snap emoji. We need a bunch of snap emojis to come raining down on the screen. So let's talk about this world too, because so today I spent time listening to a wonderful conversation that Jason Reynolds had on the Deadline City podcast about
Yes.
fantasy versus contemporary. And one of the things that he brought up that, as someone who likes fantasy, I was like, yo, I gotta agree with you, is how difficult it is where you get a lot of these writers who front load any fantasy, contemporary, secondary, it doesn't. And
Yeah.
one of the things I love about your writing specifically, and this goes with men too, is the way you reveal the fantastical world
Yeah.
without front loading anything at
Right.
all. You're just
Yeah.
like, this is the world. This is how it happened. My breath was literally taken. Like I had to like stop when you're getting into the park and they mentioned the statues, and I was like, oh, the statues. And then you start slowly revealing what they actually are. And I was like, what is happening? What? Like, but in what someone who is not as good at their craft would just tell you the backstory and
Right.
the exposition.
Right.
And this, you find out emotionally at the same time as you do the literal exposition as well. So I wanted to ask you how you go about revealing details. What things did you decide, okay, the reader's got to know this right off the bat, versus here's the stuff I'm going to just slowly feed into the experience?
I think that my default is to slowly to scaffold, to to just slowly layer it in. My thing is, if you're the reader and you're not paying attention to context clues and to things that are being said in dialogue and all of that stuff, you're going to miss my world building, because I'm not going to be like, okay, pause. So 60 years ago, like that's never, we're never going to do that. I expect you to do some work. I don't know.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, it's that thing sometimes where it happens in a fantasy book where it's not just a pause, but then everything is italicized and it's the italicized flashback. And I'm like, stop. You just took me out of the story.
Exactly.
And I feel like I'm reading a history lesson. Like,
and that's the way that it feels to me. And so for me, and again, language is so important to me, and the craft on a sentence level is so important to me, that I don't want to do anything that disrupts that in my experience of writing it. I will tell you that anybody who has edited me has at different points been like, can you please just tell me something? Can you just tell me what's happening? And I'm like, I don't know. No, like I'll think about it. No, because I'm like, I don't understand why people want things spoon-fed to them. That is a genuine like personality thing. I don't understand why people think of that as work, when to me, and again, I think this is sort of, and somebody was also a social major in there, but as a social major, and especially when you're doing things like, or even social psych, when you're doing things like language and cognition, and you're talking about what communication actually is, when I am sitting here speaking, the only point in me sitting here speaking is the assumption that you are listening, and not waiting for your chance to talk, but literally listening. So half of what I say, or at least some portion of what I say, occurs in your processing of it, right? And that is, and the fluidity of the conversation, and whether you then contribute something back, is basically how we tell if we're speaking the same language.
Right.
So for me, reading is a very, maybe I'm constantly thinking of things from a lyrical or sociological perspective, but if you're doing this with me, then part of the process is you processing the world. If I give you step by step, stand here, stand here, stand here, number one, that kind of says what I think of you, the reader, in terms of what is your capacity, what is your ability cognitively and just imagination wise. And yes, if I were thinking, okay, we're going to center whiteness, and we're going to, we're going to think of white people as my default audience, I would explain a hell of a lot more, right? Because I assume that you don't have the culture, that I know that you don't have the cultural competency. But my thing is, you're going to learn on your feet the same way everybody else did, just at a younger age. So I'm going to continue to speak to who this book is dedicated to, which is Black girls, meaning there are certain things I'm not going to define. And if you are really interested in making a change and changing the world and changing our lived experience in doing something toward our liberation, part of that is going to be you learning to speak the same dialect, because we speak yours. So I'm not going to break stuff down and introduce it slowly and make sure that that everybody is like, okay, now we're all on the same page. Okay, let's go to the next thing. Because I would have to write really extremely simple work. And that's what we would be asking of marginalized people, is really simplify your work. When we are ready to have nuanced conversations, we are ready to demonstrate and not even demonstrate because it's not for them, but literally to sort of glory in our actual identities and humanities and cultures and communities. And we can't do that if we're doing like a paint by numbers and making it simple enough, you know, that everybody completely comfortable. It's okay to feel some discomfort when you're learning a new language. So
well, and I think there's so many readers who are used to things being about them, that there's this bullshit notion that fiction is universal and the best books are universally relatable.
And they don't ask anybody else, right?
No,
they don't ask anybody else if those things are universal.
No, not at all.
My thing is, fiction is supposed to be something for everyone, not everything for someone. So you can't
snap emojis again. Oh yeah.
You cannot expect, you can't welcome me into publishing and then be like, if you could just write like a Brown version of what we've been writing. No
thanks, not at all. Let's talk about another component of that, because it is a good segue to talking about the way that you address community, because one of the things I love so much about it is there is no explanation. It's just there. I have a book that is about people asserting their place in spaces that historically they are not welcomed in. But then, you know, like one of the things I'd written in the question I sent you was like this notion of also saying, hey, but we've also always was the Ren Fair, because I grew up with the Ren Fair, and there is such a complicated relationship with that, because you have historical whitewashing to deal with. You also have people who assume the Ren Fair is this incredibly accurate depiction of history, but they don't actually know the history at all.
Right.
And then, I don't know, I loved that element. So I wanted you to discuss how you wove in this notion of the communities that these people have, because they each have their own communities, because there's also the Siren Network and the choir. How did you go about developing a community? How did you want it to feel on the page? Yes, talk about these things.
Yes.
Talk about them.
Okay, so the first thing is I really want to demonstrate something that has always been true. Our spaces are always diverse. So marginalized people's spaces are always more welcoming than predominantly white spaces, because predominantly white spaces are by nature, and I always feel like I have to explain this to people who don't know, whiteness is a power conglomerate, it's not a heritage. So I'm not talking about a particular heritage or culture or community. I'm talking about whiteness as the sociological, political, economic conglomeration of power, which by its very nature must subjugate someone else for them to exist. Okay, so white spaces are then inherently violent, because it's like I live in literally like on the border of Quebec and New York. It is like the northernmost point in the state of New York, but it's 99% white. That's intentional.
Yeah.
There's no way that you're going to tell me that you're a northern state and want to talk about the Underground Railroad and abolitionists and freedom and blah, blah, and then you snap forward to 2020 and only white people live here. That's a choice. That's something that you intentionally created. So you see these communities in the book, and you know that because if you check the census, more Black people used to live here. And then you got to wonder what violence happened to let them know they weren't welcome.
It's specifically, for people who don't know, specifically in Portland, because your book is very, very Portland.
It's
terrifying ways. Like,
I am indicting Portland in the way that you only indict places that you have at least a little bit of love for, but I'm super sick of certain things. So the communities that you see in the book, when you look at the network and you look at the gospel choir and you look at the networks that even the oppressed and the marginalized have created for themselves, there are always non-Black people in them. There are specifically, I think the girl's named Tracy, who's in both the network and the gospel choir, who is a white girl, but she is a part, and that's a normal thing. Our spaces are always include other people. When you see Effie involved in the Ren Fair, it's repeatedly mentioned that she is like the only Black girl.
Mm-hmm.
So for her, anytime you try to integrate white spaces, it's a thing. Like it's a, and I literally did this because when I was younger, I was obsessed with Ren Fair.
Yeah.
And I'm from California, which is of course a blue state, but as everybody knows, as soon as you go outside of certain neighborhoods, I'll say,
mm-hmm.
it's red all day long. It's MAGA hats everywhere. So I grew up basically wanting something so badly for the entire time I can remember and never, ever going because it was very, very clear. I got a message repeatedly. Number one, through any sort of fantastical historical things that you watched, I was not in it.
Yep.
You don't exist. You get this message over and over. You do not exist. And then you see people, because the Ren Fair used to be like advertised on television, like, don't forget to come to Ren Fair. Not a single person of color in any of the promo stuff, not in any of the videos. All of the kids that I knew, because I was also like goth in my heart. Like all of the so many things that you feel. And I feel like I'm reclaiming so much of like my lost opportunities that I'm still pretty salty about. But like, if you have these things that everybody just takes for granted, oh, you like this kind of music, you like this kind of thing, you get to go and experience it, and that makes up your whole childhood, and wasn't that a fun time? That's not true for all of us. If I see something that you've designated as yours, that you've designated is too white of me, and if I like it, I have to accept that this is going to be met with constant reminders and constant picking on me and constantly asking me why I'm interested in this. And if I, being the IB kid that I was, were like, all of this is ahistorical, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know that none of this is historically accurate. All right. You wouldn't have even had potatoes or teeth, but that's fine. So so with Effie, I literally gave her this and gave her a strength that I genuinely didn't realize at the time that I could have just gone. I really didn't.
Yeah.
I really did not understand that I could have just gone. But I also, as a Black kid, you have to weigh what are you willing to put up with. I was already in primarily white spaces because I was in private school most of my life. And then even when I wasn't, I was in these special programs that were primarily white. So I was already in primarily white spaces all the time. So it's like, do I want to also deal with this just because I want to cosplay and like I want to LARP and I want to do all this other stuff? But it's like, I'm already getting this every day. I'm already getting questioned every single day. I'm already doing so much emotional labor just to get an education. So it's just like, okay, I guess I don't actually need this. Forget it. So I wanted Effie, whatever insecurities and instabilities she has, to have been like, no, this is mine. Like, this is what I do. And I also made it sort of, again, like a matrilineal thing where her mother had done it and where she was introduced to it young enough that it was like, yes, I understand you're over here chattering about the fact that I'm a Black mermaid. Like you've never heard of Mami Wata, and you have no idea. You have no idea what you don't know.
Yeah.
The Caribbean mermaid, like you have no idea what you don't know. But she has a confidence to do it that comes from having shared it with her mother. And I obviously didn't have that, so I didn't get to do it. But I wanted somebody, even in their sort of insecurities that every teenager has, for that to be an area of strength where it's like, you're not going to take this from me. You're not going to keep this from me.
So you actually read part of what I'm about to ask you about. And I'm so excited because I want to get to questions as a chance to talk. But this is my conversation with you, and I need to talk about Gargi.
This is your time.
More than anything.
Mark, this is your time.
Anything in the world. I need to talk about Gargi. That section that you just read and where you mentioned and you actually make your reference to gargoyles, I wanted to pass out. I wanted to just lay on the floor and not move. I was introduced to gargoyles as an adult. I was not allowed to watch cartoons as a kid except for like Jesus stuff and educational things because I was in a really everyone. I was basically in a cult. It was weird. We'll talk about it some other time. But so I missed out on a lot of stuff. So I watched gargoyles as an adult. It changed my life. Because the ability of that show.
I've never been the same.
Never been the same because you could see what you could do with children's fiction. And you see, and it's what I love about your book too, because you more or less addressed this earlier, but like your book doesn't condescend to the reader at all. It's even the people who don't get it, who are not part of this experience, who may not have the cultural competency, who may not have the language, it still doesn't condescend to them. It just says, come on this journey.
I assume you can get there. I assume you can get there.
So this is my very lofty way of asking you about the gargoyle. And at what point can we also just have a little moment to talk about Goliath the gargoyle, who, if I'm being real, I don't think there's any children here. I would let him take me to Pound Town.
I didn't know you were going to say like that, but yes, I knew that's what
I'm an adult.
Right. It's consensual. He's a cartoon. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
gonna get so many emails from Parisia's gonna be like, why do you like
Here's the thing. No, because she already put me with Zoraida, and obviously she did the same thing, and
Don't
she said the
same. Elle. I see that little face, Elle.
First of all, I thought you were on board, Elle. I thought
this is my truth. I'm speaking it. I thought this was
stand
no
in
judgment
your
zone.
Truth. Yes.
So talk to me about gargoyles and how you develop this character. Oh, there's so much I want to. There's so much I can't even talk about because there's spoilers.
I know.
Too. Like,
yes, there are. Okay, so my sister Jennifer, I had hoped that we were going to co-write this together, and she had a character who I can't talk very much about, but she had a character who was like, "What if this about that character?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And because I thought we were going to co-write it, it was like, "Okay, so you can kind of decide stuff about Effie and this and Gargi, and then and I'll do Tavia." And then of course, I ended up doing the whole book, but so she introduced having a gargoyle, and then I was like, okay, I might have some unresolved feelings about gargoyles. And here's the thing, I literally do not remember. I don't remember setting aside time to watch gargoyles. There are certain cartoons that it was part of our daily schedule. It included, of course, the animated series X-Men. It included the New Adventures of Batman. It included Cops for a while. The animated. Please don't think I'm talking about that other thing. The animated show that nobody seems to know is real.
I had a moment where I was like, "Oh, that's a weird little thing to set aside."
Absolutely not. This is a cartoon. It's a cartoon called Cops that people gaslit me about for a very long time, to the point that I was like, did this even exist? And now I have it on DVD. So yes, it did. And G.I. Joe and all that kind of stuff. So there are certain, and David the Gnome.
I was allowed to watch David the Gnome. I remember that.
David the Gnome. So there were certain cartoons that it was like they were every day. This was like a part of the family schedule, right? Yeah. Which did come out of being homeschooled, like a Christian Abeka homeschooling, where you could only watch Perry Mason, and then suddenly I can watch X-Men. So, that's not a joke. We literally watched Perry Mason during that.
Oh my God. This is why you are the way you are. This explains so
listen,
much.
This is all still answering your question.
It is.
So I don't remember. And Jim, I did watch that, and that was a big deal. But gargoyles was not a thing that if you had asked me at some different point in my life, hey, did you watch a lot of gargoyles? I'd be like, I mean, I was aware of it, whatever. But if you say, hey, do you want to write about a gargoyle? Suddenly, it all comes roaring back. And the thing was, gargoyles was also just for my age group, at least, I'm 37, like It was just very culturally, everybody knew what that was.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody watched it, but everybody knew and had feelings about Goliath one way or the other. So, and I did not know that he was voiced by a Black man, and that really added layer. Anyway, so
Keith David could get it too. Let's just be honest. I mean,
his
okay.
voice always, it's Keith David and Delroy Lindo. Listen,
Oh boy.
listen.
Okay.
Anyway, so if they want to ever do like a reprise of Gargoyles and like, anyway, so when I'm making him, I was like, I want there to be some sort of surprise about him outside of the plot kind of stuff. And I also wanted to just show what my literal first reaction to hearing Keith David's voice was in real life.
Yeah.
So when Gargi speaks for when Gargi speaks for the first time,
I yelped, first of all.
and
like
Tavia's like sploosh. What just happened? That was a very true to life. And then so
again. I can't
never again. This is our one and only. This was our one chance and we blew it.
I'm so proud of you.
Elle, I'm not even paying attention to you anymore. Forget it. So that was a very intentional moment. I am actually warm and I don't know if it's real.
I'm Latino, so I sweat a lot and I'm very oily and
Listen.
I'm getting like extra hot and I'm just like, whoo. All right. Anyway.
Okay. So.
Yeah.
So that was a moment that was important to me.
You nailed it. And so many other things happened. I don't want to spoil them. So I would like to turn this over to the lovely people who are following along and listening to us.
Except for my editor and Latrice. Please don't ask any questions.
You're not
Go
allowed
ahead.
to, either of you. Do you want to jump in to explain the logistics of how the hand raising?
Totally.
Yeah.
So this is so great, y'all. Having a great time. Also have a long story about Keith David, which that's for another.
Okay.
So the way it's going to work is if you want to leave your question in the chat, you can go ahead and type it in the chat, send it to everyone, and I think Mark is going to
I'll be reading the chat, so I will see your questions and take them down if the chat moves quickly. Great.
And if people want to speak themselves, there's a hand raise function, which it seems a little complicated, but it's actually pretty easy. If you click on the bottom of your screen, there's a button that says participants. And if you click on that button, participants, it'll be a little window that'll open up on the right with the names of everybody who's here. And there'll be a little blue hand that you can click. And if you click that blue hand, that's the raise hand function. And if you have any trouble, just say in the chat, like, I'm trying to raise my hand or whatever. There we go.
Yeah.
All right.
And I can see it. And then I can see it and we'll I don't know how to, and then I'll just tell like, okay, go ahead and come on or unmute yourself, whatever. Yeah. So,
and I can unmute people too, but I'll let you lead the.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So the first person who has their hand raised is, I believe, forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, is Eliora.
Yeah, you pronounced it right.
Oh, wonderful. Do you want to ask Bethany a question?
Well, I'm 10 years old and I am gonna write a book, so I'm looking for some advice.
Oh, awesome.
Well, like, have you ever, and a question too. Well, first the question is, have you ever like felt so doubtful in your book that you kind of just wanted to trash it and start from scratch or something?
I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm a very particular kind of person. So I don't think I personally have, but that is a very, 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 very and pretty consistent way for writers to feel. It's not something that will only happen one time probably. Mm-hmm. And so the important thing is to take breaks if you need to, and give yourself some time to just let your brain do something that you enjoy, but also to understand that it might just be about stress. It might just be that you need to figure something out for your story and figure out where you want to go with it. It might just be letting you know that you kind of need to do some more plotting and, set a course for yourself. But I wouldn't let that feeling dictate whether I wrote, because it's really, really common.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say the same, and I'll also add to it that I do run into doubt every once in a while, and often what that doubt is I'm far enough along in the story that I like what has happened, but I'm getting to a part of the story where instinctually I know deep down in my heart I'm making a mistake. I went down the wrong path. And the answer is like, sometimes I'll just back up a little bit and look at the choices and the things that were happening, and I'll be like, wait, that's wrong. That doesn't fit the character. This doesn't fit the story. Maybe go work on something else, or go, like, sometimes I'll just go play video games for an hour and not write, and just get my brain thinking about
Cartoons
something
and
else.
video games are very important to writing. Like,
very, very important.
Yeah.
So also another question is like, have you ever felt like really pressured about your book? Because like my parents, like, I just signed up to do this for fun, like with publishing my book and everything, and they're all like, let's do it. And me,
when I was younger, my dad, I don't know if he thought it would help or not, but I've always been writing. So I've been writing since I was about 8 years old. And there was one time that my dad said to me, I'm not going to read anything until you finish something. And I don't know, he didn't know anything about my writing, so he didn't know I had finished things before. And that to me was like, okay, whatever. And then I just went and wrote stuff for myself because I wasn't writing it for him in the first place. But I think that sometimes people try to motivate writers, and sometimes they get it right and sometimes they might not, especially if they're not writers themselves. So the good thing to take from that is like, that your parents are like involved and invested in something that is your passion, because not everybody has that. So that is really, really encouraging to know that they're aware of it and that they're supportive of
And
it.
I would also say, just like, make sure you're having fun, because it's the best part of writing, when you're creating a world and you're creating a story and you're getting to do all the stuff you want to happen in a story.
Right.
Like, don't worry about it being published. Don't worry about what anyone's going to think about it. Like, just write for yourself and do all the cool stuff you want to do.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Eliara.
Thank you.
Also, by the way, your book is like amazing. It's on like my favorite book list.
Oh, thank you.
And that's saying something since I've read. That's saying something since I've read a million good books.
Thank you.
In my top 3 favorites.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, who's up next? Don't be shy.
I see a question from Jackie.
Oh, in the chat. Let's go to the chat.
Yes, in the chat.
It's currently highlighting one of L messages saying, "You mean I can speak?"
Oh, my goodness.
All right, so we have...
She's like, I can use my voice.
So let's do... We have, what is one question you wish we asked? And also, what books are on your to-be-read list?
Oh my gosh, so much books. So much books on my TBR.
Yeah.
I just bought, the last 50, not an exaggeration. So the last 50 plus books that I have bought are on my TBR. I have not read any of them. So the last book that I bought was The City We Became. And it's, oh my gosh, and it's gorgeous. The cover is absolutely gorgeous. Now, I did open it and read the first page because that's what I always do. But with all of the events and everything else that I have to do, I'm actually finding it in quarantine a bit difficult to read. And even when I have I'll have this desire to read, and it will still just not happen. I just get distracted. So that is the thing that I'm really wishing I could read right now. And in terms of questions that I wish people asked, I think that everybody that I've been in conversation with we've had such great conversations. I prefer sort of free flowing conversations versus here's a question and answer that question. I like the freedom of just natural conversation. As you can tell, I'm a conversationalist. I like, genuine conversation. So I'm never really concerned with ask this particular question, because eventually you do this enough times, somebody's going to ask it anyway. So I don't feel like there's anything that we're missing.
Yeah. I also hope, between doing lots of events and also being consistently on deadline, I've purchased probably 30 books in the last month, and I have not read a single one of them.
It's not happening.
not at all. I have a side job where I read books for a foreign rights agency. So I'm reading books that aren't out for like a year or two.
See, that's the other problem is as an author, you're sent books that have not come out. So you can't really talk about the books that you are reading because nobody has access to them yet. So the last book that I actually read was Ring Shout, but I don't mention it because it's not out.
And I want it so bad.
Mark?
I know. I listened to your talk the other day on Saturday with Benderson.
It's transcendent. It's transcendent. It's remarkable. I can't. It's so good.
I'm trying to think what the last book I read was. I think it was it was a blurb, and I can't talk about the book because it hasn't even been announced.
See,
so I'm like, I can't.
This is our life. I can't read. I can't have time for like published books, and then the books that I do read, I can't talk about.
The last thing, I did a big order at Books Are Magic, which is my local bookstore in Brooklyn. And so some,
Magic.
I know I love them. That I can recommend to all of you that I purchased was Black Flamingo by Dean Atta.
I want that.
Clap When You Land, the new Elizabeth Acevedo. I love her so much. Felix Ever After, Case and Calendar.
And that cover. That
Song of Race and Ruin.
Yes.
Oh my
Rosie.
God. I haven't seen a lot of people talking about this. It came out last month, or maybe this month. I don't know how time works. We Are Not From Here by Jenny Sanchez Torres or Cindy Torres. Oh, I got her name wrong.
I've heard this in passing. I love that title.
This is, so here's the thing. It's really unfortunate because people keep making this comparison, and I hate it because of how it centers whiteness, but people keep calling it the YA American Dirt.
Don't do that.
And I get why they're doing it, but they're wrong.
Don't do that.
This is someone who's actually from our community.
Yeah, don't do that.
A triple POV with some of the most devastatingly poetic language about three kids who decide to board the same train that the shitty American Dirt's based on to cross into the United States. And it is both.
That I will read.
It's a contemporary book. It's a thriller. It's just got some of the most evocative, incredible language. Like just on a sentence level.
I want it.
You're like when you read a book and you're just like, "Hi, how did you do that with those 5 words?" I don't understand it. Like I can't recommend it enough. And then
say the title again.
We Are Not From Here. Oh boy, when you find out what that title means, it just
I want it.
And then one last one, which is my favorite person. I love her so much. You should. Maria Johnson.
She's my debut day, bae. She's my debut day, bae.
I want to watch. I've only missed one of her events. Same with you. I've only missed one. I've seen all of them. She is so funny. And it just is so perfect. Oh, I love her so much. So lots of books.
Yes.
Please read them. I should have been looking at the chat. I didn't because now there's a million people. Okay. Let's see what else. If there are others. Let me get the participants. Someone raised their hand. All right. If you don't have questions, I did have questions I didn't get to.
What was your last? If someone wants to, you did say that, didn't you? Your last TBR?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. That. Okay. Miriam has a question. Do you really, Miriam?
Miriam is our editor.
Yes.
Oh boy, I can't even speak. I don't even.
What do you mean maybe? No. Do you have a question or not?
Yes.
Why are you all so beautiful and talented? Well, no. Oh, Stephanie was asking you to repeat the title because she missed the title.
Oh boy, which
one?
Title?
And Miriam is saying she can't find her unmute.
That's so in character. The last book I mentioned was You Should See Me in a Crown. It is very queer and wonderful contemporary.
A rom-com.
Yeah, it's
which
so
we
good.
Deserve.
We do. Which book do you wish? Oh wow! Which book do you wish you had as a kid or a teenager?
I'm going to be really brutally honest and say A Song Below Water. That's
I'm having a moment of silence for that.
Part of the reason.
Part of why you wrote it, right?
Why I wrote it, because I would have gone to the Ren Fair if I had this book.
Yeah. My answer is Aristotle and Dante discover the secrets of the universe. and being a queer, you know, Latino kid, and being so unsure, and a book where someone is unsure the whole time, like unsure the whole time. I absolutely get, we, like, as a queer community, we need to have this conversation. Like, as someone who wrote a like mad traumatic book, like, I have so much trauma that I still want to unpack through literature and talk about. Like, we also need joy. We need the rom-coms.
Yeah.
And I love that book is about someone who is questioning and doesn't know, and how difficult and challenging that is, while also just being beautiful and beautifully written. Like,
that is literally also a part of why Effie is so important to me, because we are adultified as Black children. We are adultified from a very early age. We are expected to know, and we have to, for survival most of the time, much of the time. So, you know, only white parents get to say, I don't know if at what age should I start talking to my children about stuff? Well, when you're living it, that's not a question, because they have to know certain things. So Effie was really important to me, and her eyes being closed on the cover, me to show a Black girl who is confused, who is literally like, I don't understand what's going on. And yes, it's unique to her being in a magic, you know, in a world that involves magic, but if I'm going to have Tiz has to understand certain things, has to know what she is, has to know what that means, has to know the cost. I want to also have a Black girl who can't answer all your questions, who can't educate you, who doesn't speak up in class every time you say, yes, someone who was innocent, and not so much innocent both in having done nothing wrong and just honestly not having the language, the adult language that you expect Black children to have, to be able to write their own epitaph. It's of like, we shouldn't all have to know that. And so I really wanted a character who does not get it, and who people are intentionally actually keeping the reality of it from her, because you don't see that with Black kids in real life or in literature.
Yeah. All right, any other last questions?
Yeah, maybe we do. I want to listen to y'all talk all day. I would love to just, like, hang out for another 3 hours. I don't know, I'll just grab some food. And let's have one more question, maybe.
Unless this one you want to ask. Did you figure out how to unmute? There should be a button right down here that says mute. Or
unmuted.
Miriam. Even Miriam's still they are unmuted.
Okay, speak.
Just say a word out loud.
Where are you? Okay, she can't. Okay, so just tell us what, because you didn't have a question, did you? You just wanted to troll. You didn't. We didn't hear you. Oh my goodness.
Why are you like this? That's a question you need to be asking you. Why are you like this?
Wow. She just so everybody knows, she already said.
I don't know if you hear me because I can't hear you.
Oh, is that Elliot?
So exactly, I can't hear you guys at all. So whatever. Goodbye.
Bye.
Okay, Elle, are you gonna be a voice to the voiceless? What are we doing, and why can't Miriam figure this out? I want you to know this is probably part of the troll. She literally told me she was gonna troll this event.
Okay.
Okay, she says, no, it isn't, I promise. Well, we cannot hear you.
I'm looking at so I have this thing in my notes on my phone, which is called chaos questions. And it's every time I think of a chaotic question to ask an author.
Yes.
They're real bad.
Did I fix it?
They're so strange.
Is that you, Miriam?
Gasp, I'm amazing.
Okay. Hi, Miriam.
Hi, Miriam.
Hey, guys. I have a question.
Okay.
Yes,
it is truly, why are you both like this? But it is also, if you had to pick your character's favorite book or show right now, what would it be?
Ooh.
Oh.
That's difficult because I do not often watch
gargoyles.
It's going to be gargoyles now. Okay, so Elle wants 2 answers, one for both girls. So I will say that Effie probably is more like me in that she probably is going to watch things 100% for escapism and because she always feels uncomfortable. So she's watching a lot of there's separate ones and then something they watch together. Effie, when she's by herself, is watching reruns of Bob's Burgers because it's just like to turn off, to just not have to think. Tavia is, despite not wanting to be, she is probably drawn to, I'm going to be really real, she's probably drawn to something like Surviving R. Kelly or something that's like really hard hitting, but finally people getting to tell the truth and like, and see people like standing in that. And then together they're watching Insecure.
Yes.
Oh. Wow, you came up with, wow, that was such a good answer in no time at all.
Yeah, I can do it. You can ask me your chaos questions.
It was the nap.
My chaos questions are like, do you prefer Go-Gurt or Danimals?
What? Okay,
Who's ever
first of
asked
all,
that in an author event?
some of us can't deal with any of that because of lactose situations, and therefore it's Greek yogurt or nothing, and it's Greek yogurt only if I know, if I sense in my core that I can survive it today.
I guess then my chaos question would be, would you prefer to eat Greek yogurt out of those weird little plastic containers, or the weird tubes that you squirt in your mouth?
Oh, the container. The tubes are so chaotic. The cutting of the mouth situation.
Thank you.
I don't understand who is eating their yogurt so violently.
I
like, stop doing that.
Last, and they were like, Go-Gurt, because it's portable. And I was like, but at what cost? At what cost?
And then the stepping, so you're walking with it in your mouth. You're telling me you don't have cuts on the sides of your mouth? No.
Yeah.
She said you squirt it. That's gross.
One last chaos question, and then we'll be out. Thank you, Miriam, very much. This is awful. Would you rather listen to only the band 311 for the rest of your life, or be unable to type the letter E and have to copy paste it in every time?
Okay, only 311? Because there was a time, I'm from California. My sister went to UC Santa Barbara.
This is why I specifically chose 311.
So here's the thing, because I could
Is
deal.
amber the color of your energy?
Oh my gosh. First of all, I need you to know that my sister saw them so many times in concert in college. So many times. I liked 311, but 311 is a very California thing. It's no, only 311 is an absolute no. So I guess I'm going to be copy pasting E for the rest of my days because there's no way. There's no way. No.
I genuinely feel like people outside of California don't know about 311.
They absolutely don't,
like,
because
don't get it.
If you're from California, you're like, 311 was so huge, and then you're like, well, let me think about this. They did the college circuit for a long time, so maybe they weren't as big as I thought they were.
Nope.
Like, they opened for Everclear, so I thought. I don't know.
God, Everclear.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. My sister Jennifer.
Oh my God. Okay.
Look, I'm telling you.
Some people know.
Apparently the Rust Belt loves 311, so you learned something new.
Oh, well, they're, good for us. I don't know.
That's weird.
It is very weird. Bethany, thank you so much. This, first of all, felt like it went by in 5 minutes. You are incredible. I also could listen to you speak for 3 hours. Your book is amazing. Please, everyone, purchase this book so you can get the book plate as well as the special pin, and also support this incredible human being. And I can't wait to see whenever it happens, whatever is next. And I want 1,000 more books from you.
There will be. I just want to say,
can I have some more?
Yes, you can, and you can have more in this world next year.
Oh, and Little Women.
And Little Women next year. You can have 2 things from me next year.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah,
it's
going to be a good year for us, guys.
Thank you, Skylight Books, as well, for hosting us.
Thank you.
I said this before we actually came on, but I used to live in LA, and Skylight Books was my bookstore. So this is especially meaningful for me, too.
Well, we missed you. We're so glad that you were able to join us. Thank you, Mark Oshiro. Thank you, Bethany Morrow. Such a gift to have you. Thanks, everyone, for being here. Order the book. We should have them back in the store beginning next week because they are flying off the shelves. And stay well, stay safe, everyone. And thank you again, Bethany and Mark. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having us. Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Skylight Books podcast series. Please don't forget to visit our website at skylightbooks.com and make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast for more author talks and bookseller conversations. You can find us on Podbean, iTunes, and Spotify. Stay safe and healthy, and we hope to see you back in our store soon.